I didn't post a Torah for the past 2 weeks. Not for Shabbat Chol HaMoed Pesach. Not last week for Parashat Shmini either. And I'm not going to apologise for that, because the truth is the pause was the Torah. 2 Sundays ago, in the middle of Pesach, Liora gave birth to our first child, our daughter, Odea Miriam. And suddenly, time stopped behaving the way I'm used to. Days blurred, nights stretched, plans became irrelevant almost instantly. And suddenly, what felt urgent wasn't anymore. And what actually mattered stopped waiting to be scheduled. This week, we have another double parsha, Tazria-Matzora. So it's time for another 2-for-1 deal. And I'll be sharing 2 kavanot to focus in on. One from Tazria and one from Matzora. What strikes me about these 2 parshiot is that neither of them is interested in the fantasy that life runs on your preferred timetable. Tazria begins with birth, with the body, with vulnerability, with the kind of reality that does not ask for permission before rearranging everything. And Matzora turns to speech, to what leaves the mouth, to what damage words can do, to what repair requires once something has already gone wrong. At first glance, they don't seem especially connected. One is about physical life, the other is about moral and relational life. But after the past 2 weeks, I don't think they are separate at all. Because when life slows you down hard enough, 2 things become harder to ignore. Your body and your voice. What your body is saying and what your speech is doing. What needs care? What needs honesty? What needs healing? What needs to stop being postponed? And that is why this week's Torah doesn't feel distant to me at all. It feels uncomfortably current. Tazria comes first, and I think that matters because before the Torah gets to speech, it gets to embodiment. Before it gets to what we say, it gets to the fact that we are not disembodied minds floating above our lives with perfect control over pace and output and energy. We are physical creatures. We get tired, we heal slowly, we break rhythm, we live in bodies that impose terms and conditions on our ambitions. That shouldn't be a radical insight, and yet most of us live as though it is. We speak about rest as though it's optional. We treat recovery like a delay. We speak about limits as though they are failures in planning rather than facts of being human. And then something happens. Birth, illness, grief, exhaustion, overwhelm. And suddenly the lie collapses. You are reminded rather forcefully that the body is not an inconvenience to work around. It's part of the truth. And sometimes actually, it's the truth most worth listening to. So the first kavanah I'm carrying this week from Tazria is this: to respect the rhythms of body and life, not because slowing down is inherently holy. Sometimes it's really frustrating. Sometimes it's imposed. Sometimes it ruins all of your plans. But because refusing to respect reality has never made anyone wiser. And if I'm honest, one of the things this season is already teaching me is that presence is often more important than productivity, but much harder to measure. The question I'm asking myself this Shabbat is, where am I demanding output when my body or my life is asking for repair? And then comes Matzora. And here the Torah makes a sharp turn, or at least it seems to, because once you've been slowed down, once the noise drops, once life stops letting you perform normality at full speed, you begin to notice something else too. How you speak. Not just publicly, not just rhetorically, not just in the polished places. How you actually speak. To the people closest to you. To yourself. Into moments of stress. Into moments of fatigue. Into moments where discomfort makes honesty feel really expensive. Matzora is a parsha that Jewish tradition has long linked to speech, especially harmful speech, dishonest speech, avoidant speech, speech that distances rather than repairs. And that feels exactly right to me this week, because when you're sleep deprived, stretched, emotional, off rhythm, and more vulnerable than usual, your words stop being theoretical. You hear their edge more clearly. You notice the dodge more quickly. You become aware of the truths you are not saying because saying them would require something from you. Matzora is not really interested in language as self-expression. It's interested in language as consequence. speech that reveals character, speech that creates distance, speech that can also, if used honestly, begin to mend what has frayed. So the second kavanah I'm carrying this week from Matzora is this: to speak truthfully and to repair quickly. Not to say everything dramatically, not to confuse honesty with bluntness, not to turn every discomfort into a performance of authenticity. Just this: to stop pretending that avoided truths stay harmless, because they don't. They leak, they distort, they settle into tone, they shape relationships anyway, only now without clarity, without courage, and without repair. The question I'm asking myself this Shabbat is, what truth am I holding, am I avoiding? Because I don't want discomfort. And for you, the question I want to leave you with is not really about the parsha in isolation, but about what happens when you place them together. When life forces you to slow down, what becomes easier to hear? The needs of your body, the state of your speech, the truths you've been outrunning, the care that can no longer be deferred, because that is what these 2 weeks have felt like for me. Not an interruption to Torah, an immersion in it, a reminder that some weeks do not give you new insights so much as strip away your ability to ignore old ones, that bodies are not machines, that love is not efficient, that repair cannot always be scheduled, that what matters most usually does not arrive when convenient. Shabbat Shalom. And if life has pulled you out of rhythm recently, maybe the question is not how quickly to get back on schedule. Maybe the question is what the pause is trying to teach you before you do.